So, Mary Kay, let's just get started. What was the first storyline that you came up with?
Well, the first one that I have written down here is how will Myles Garrett and Za'Darius Smith get along? I think this is a very, very important relationship on that defensive line. I think these guys have to be working in concert, especially after what happened last year with Jadeveon Clowney. We know that by October, it had kind of gone to hell in a handbag, and Jadeveon was refusing to play on anything but third down in that loss to the Baltimore Ravens because he got flip flopped over to Ronnie Stanley, the better blocker, and Myles got the easier assignment. Uh, Za'Darius comes in as an individual who has averaged 12 sacks in his last 3 seasons, except for a year in which he played only one game because of a back injury. That's a lot of sacks over those 3 years. And he just produces, produces, produces. And, he's going to be not only taking some heat off of Myles Garrett in terms of a coverage type of situation, but he's also going to be directly competing with him for the sack title on the team and for, you know, possibly NFL Defensive Player of the Year. So, I do think the way those two guys interact and set the tone on the defensive line is vital this season.
Yeah, I think maybe the alternate headline here is will Miles play nice with his new pass rushing partner? It always felt like him and Jadeveon had an okay relationship. In light of kind of what he told you at the end of the year, Jadeveon, I mean, I guess I questioned a little bit of how I viewed that from afar now, but it always felt like they were fine. Olivier Vernon was a guy who was here for a little while. It seemed like things were okay there. But I also think there's a reality where it's hard to play with Myles Garrett, and it's not a personality thing, maybe but it's just like this guy is so good, and you have to, as a defensive coordinator and a defensive line coach, put him in positions to be successful. That if you are a Jadeveon Clowney who thinks you are still a top tier pass rusher, if you are a ZaDarius Smith, you have to be willing to make some sacrifices, and that can sometimes be difficult for guys.
Yeah, and the thing with Jadavian and Miles, it was not something that anybody really knew was going on. It was sort of under the surface. It was more a Jadavian internal thing, really, than it was, it's not like those two guys weren't getting along and you could see them arguing. It was nothing like that whatsoever. It was just a feeling on Jadavian's part that, hey, there's just something about this that isn't sitting right with me, that it has to be like this, where I have to take the tougher blocker and then I'm not going to be able to get the sacks that I want. And we know he only had 2 sacks last year. So, that obviously didn't go well. But the thing about the Cleveland Browns is, anybody that comes in here is going to have to know. And I asked Za'Darius Smith this question in his press conference, do you come in here sort of kind of understanding that Myles Garrett is the alpha dog and that you kind of in some ways you kind of have to get the lay of the land and know your place a little bit in that regard. And he wasn't going to concede that. I mean, these guys have a lot of pride in their ability. They've got a lot of pride in their play and those kinds of things. So he was not about to say, "Oh yeah, I know that and that's cool, and I know my plays." No, it was nothing like that. It's more of, no, we're going to work together and we're going to find a name for this defense, and Myles is going to go get some shirts and this is all going to be really cool. So yeah, it's definitely an issue and it's something that you have to think about going in. But if everybody plays their cards right, there should be enough to go around. All the dogs should be able to eat. Everybody should be able to be happy in this defense, and it should work out just fine.
Yeah, I would imagine a big part of Jadavion